Hello everyone, it is Paradox 2767 again, coming at you with another movie review because I saw another movie I liked a lot and I thought I'd just talk about it a little bit with you again. This time it's Elvis, which I guess you saw in the title of the video. Again, I guess this video is sponsored by the Zodiac Dozen, the books I'm writing. I guess I'll link to those in the description or something. Mostly this thing's here because our office is messy and that prevented me from having to clean it. Anyway, we're going to talk about Elvis a little bit. Kind of like my review of The Batman. I really don't have any criticisms I'm going to offer because, I don't know, it doesn't really interest me to say what I didn't like about something. I'm just going to talk about a few things that I liked. I saw it for the first time in Saturday, this last Saturday. That might have been maybe opening night or the day after opening night, probably. And then I went ahead and saw it again the next day, yesterday, with my wife because I had to show her. I liked it enough. And then this time... and unlike Batman, I saw 3 times and then reviewed. This time I'm just going to see it twice, I decided. I thought I'd leave you with my thoughts. Anyway, so I have been an Elvis fan for, as far back as right as I was walking out of the theater 2 days ago. I literally didn't know him at all, basically, except for the little stuff that just trickles down through pop culture, and I really had no opinions going in. One thing I didn't kind of like is Tom Hanks. I don't know if that's popular or unpopular opinion right now, but... I liked him a little bit when he was like Woody and I was a little kid, but more and more as I've grown old, I've gotten kind of sick of him. So, if anything, going into the movie, it was net negative, or I was not that excited just for that sake. And then Elvis, I'm don't really know about him, so whatever, we'll just see how it is. Ended up liking it a lot, obviously, saw it a few times. I'm going to be keeping going back and forth, looking over here, because that's where I had my notes. I think I probably did that last time. But yeah, so I saw it twice, found a few things that I thought maybe you wouldn't pick up if you just saw it once, or I just am not that astute, so it took me twice to see it. I'm sure if I saw it another time, I'd find even more junk. But that's, I guess, the first point. I can't really rewatch it again, I think, for a good long while. I don't know what it is about Baz Luhrmann's films, the director of this one. The only other one of his I've seen is Gatsby, Great Gatsby. And just like Elvis, I really liked Great Gatsby. I really liked Elvis. But then a couple years later, I tried to watch Great Gatsby again, and it was hard to rewatch for some reason. I think it was such an event in the theater and everything, and it was such a huge production. But there's something about maybe Baz Luhrmann. I don't know. Leave a comment if you're onto what I'm getting at. But it was hard to rewatch Great Gatsby. I don't even think I made it through, even though I liked it a lot in the theater, and I still liked it when I rewatched it. But I don't know. They're really long, and it's just such a I don't know. You're kind of holding your breath the whole time, so it's such an experience to go through. I think it's hard to do it twice. But I did this one twice, and I decided I don't think I can do it again. Mostly because I think Tom Hanks. Sorry if there's any lovers of him out there. But the first time I didn't know if he was going to be a good... Spoilers. Anyway, here we go. The first time I really didn't know if he was going to be a villain or not. So I was kind of oh, God. If they're going to have Tom Hanks be another whatever basic, oh, you're supposed to like him character, that's going to drive me nuts. What I was pleasantly surprised with my first viewing was that actually he's a villain. So I can feel, I have the popular opinion by hating him in this film at least. So that I actually enjoyed. But then the second time I watched it, I had hatred for Tom Hanks plus his character so much that they peaked to the point where it was basically how I can't rewatch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because I hate Nurse Ratched so much. I have a physical reaction to seeing her, even pictures of her or whatever. I was retching when I was seeing Tom Hanks and his his lines and everything. I mean, he's I'm not gonna say he's a bad actor, I guess, but he's just frustrating, especially in this movie. So, I was okay, when I walked out of the theater, even though I'm tempted to go see it some more, I'm I have to, stop here because Tom Hanks is too much. So, yeah, that's what I think. So, okay, there's just a few, little things I noticed. Nothing too crazy in the second review. There's one thing that I saw. So, there's this dude who's having the rally simultaneous to Elvis's giant stadium performance when he's still really young, and he, against the wishes of the cops, he does his thrusting, iconic dance moves, even though the cops are all up in arms. Simultaneously, there's that Confederate rally, and there's that dude who is leading it, and he finds out about Elvis for the first time by watching his gyrating special on his TV, and his kids are there watching, who I assume are his kids, are watching Elvis lustfully, and there's 3 girls and a boy who I assumed was the Confederate guy's son. And I just thought it was a nice irony and kind of like a realistic one to have like a bigot have a gay son. I don't know, like I've seen a few of those case study or like real life examples in my own life. So it's like, oh yeah, I kind of like when that happens. Somehow that's satisfying. But anyway, yeah, it was satisfying in this movie as well. I liked it. Small detail, so I wasn't sure if you noticed. And then there's, I guess I was like paying attention a little bit to how Elvis was like breathing in the mic a lot this movie, and I liked how when his first ever live performance at like the in like Louisiana Hayride whatever stage, he's like breathing like really heavily and shakily into the mic, obviously before he starts like becoming super popular with his dance moves and stuff. And then at the end, I like, even the first time I saw this movie, I couldn't help but notice we have like Elvis at one of his last performances, and he's like huffing between, you know, realistically, because that's like how it actually was, I guess, because I've been doing a little research now that I'm such an Elvis fan, but he was like huffing and puffing between his delivery of each of the stanzas or whatever the song, and I just like that kind of parallel to bookend the book for me. It was like not two different kinds of breathing, I guess. Nervous breathing at the start, and now he's like the king of the world and is just breathing because I don't know, like if I'm reading into this live, this is like unscripted, so sorry if I'm rambling, but I guess the first reason he's breathing because he's like afraid of how the people will perceive him. And then the second time when he's huffing and puffing, it's because the people perceived him really, really well, but that actually ended up destroying him. So he's always going to be like breathing hard. He's like a hard breathed life or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I kind of like that detail. There was like a few general connections I thought to Marlon Brando, who I am a very big fan of and was before this movie, but literally like Tom Hanks's character says, you'll be the next Marlon Brando to Elvis when he's first putting him in the movies, which would be like his, you know, move towards like the more domestic movies and Christmas specials and crap, and so they mention him by name. And then later on in the book, or in the movie I should say, he gives a speech, a short one, about how there's like a specific type of bird that just flies, and when it, you know, goes, it just never lands, and when it wants to sleep, it just, you know, falls asleep and glides on the wind, and then eventually if it ever lands, that's when it dies basically. Well, I like that speech a lot, and the first time I heard it is in a movie called The Fugitive Kind, which is a movie with Marlon Brando from like the 60s. I didn't really do any research to see whether or not that's like a bigger reference, like it might be from a play or Shakespeare or something, I'm not sure. Or maybe it's literally from Fugitive Kind. Anyway, for me, that just tied it back to the Brando thing, which is kind of interesting. And then I think maybe that's what primed me to see one of the last scenes where it's Elvis and Priscilla in the backseat of a car, basically talking about his career. I kind of saw that as a tie-in, at least in my head, to like the On the Waterfront classic Brando speech where he's like, oh, I could have been a contender. Even if you haven't seen that movie, maybe you've heard that phrase, like, oh, I could have been a contender, where he's in that movie, he's like a boxer who threw a fight, and he's just like looking back over his career, kind of disappointed. Anyway, it's the same thing to me with Elvis and Priscilla, because Elvis, even though he's like the king of the world, he's like, oh, you know, I was never even in a classic movie, and it's the same tug at my heartstrings, kind of like, oh man, like, yeah, I can feel that, that's too bad. And so it's kind of like an unfulfilled hero, sort of. So Brando connections. Okay, that's that note. What else? I heard that Elvis's actual daughter and I think Priscilla went to the movie for pre-screening, and they liked it a lot, which I really like to hear from a filmmaker. I'm sure that's super gratifying or whatever for Baz Luhrmann too, because it's like, oh, we did it right. Apparently, I've done like tiny bit of research on this, but like Johnny Cash's biopic or something with, I think, Joaquin Phoenix, like his family didn't like that one. So I mean, like, you're not guaranteed just because you're celebrating a famous person or whatever, their family, sometimes they don't like. I think they didn't like how Johnny Cash's wife, you know, was portrayed in that. So it was really satisfying to hear, oh, they actually liked it. And then watching it the second time after hearing that, it makes a lot of sense. I think that they treated Elvis with a lot of dignity, especially leaning up to the end of his life. This was a point that my wife made too when we were talking about it. She's like, well, it's nice because, like, okay, like, what are the facts? Like, they had to work within the frame of reality, basically. I think this is pretty true to life from what I understand. But so, like, while there was, like, he might have been, like, cheating on his wife a little, there's a divorce there. So it's not like they're going to fake that in the movie. I mean, that's what kind of happens a little bit in the movie. And, you know, like, historically, Elvis had problems with, like, basically constipation a lot near the end of his life. Apparently, I was reading up on it because of, I think, the cocktail of drugs they were pumping into him to make him go to sleep, make him wake up and perform, make him go to sleep again. I think it was just kind of destroying his body, basically. And so what Veronica, my wife, and then I liked is that they didn't show that part of it, like we don't need to see Elvis on the toilet. It's that part of it. It's factual, but it's like this is it's a celebration of Elvis. So we liked how it ended a lot, and I'm sure his daughter liked it when at a right before that, I could have been a contender line, or right after that, at the end of that scene, Elvis looks back at Priscilla and says, "Hey, I've always loved you," you know. So it portrays it like, oh, they really had like a strong bond, and so that was really nice to see. And then the montage at the end. So he's performing, and then it cuts briefly. He's Elvis, the character, and the actor who are playing him, who I love. He did a great job. They're playing Elvis, one of his last songs. And the last song of the movie it is Unchained Melody. So he's playing that, and then they cut away to some footage of Elvis, like real life footage of Elvis, basically. And it's him and his wife briefly getting married, I believe, and they're like walking through, and a couple more stills of his life and stuff. And it was a really nice montage, like, and a really nice, seamless like switch from our actor playing Elvis to actual footage of Elvis, and then they switch back to Elvis playing the song, and now it's real Elvis. So like the last image I think you see of the movie is basically Elvis playing Unchained Melody, and then like looking, smiling at the camera, and it's the Elvis. Really good montage, super powerful. Like when I think of consider going back to seeing it again, it's for that ending basically. It's for I could have been a contender in the backseat with Priscilla all the way through to those last couple shots. Like it's really powerful, and after you've spent 3 hours with the person of Elvis, like it's super like fulfilling and like climactic. It's great. It's really fun and satisfying. So that was awesome. I love the montage at the end. And trust me, like since I've seen this movie, I've also seen twice his final concert, that he televised, and that's where they pulled that footage from, I think, where he's playing that song at his final concert. And I've seen that concert a few times now, and it's just it's really fun. And that's considered the song that they're playing. Unchained Melody is the last great moment of his career for as according to, I think, Rolling Stone. I pulled it off of like Wikipedia, but anyway, so basically he goes out with a bang. I mean, he does that performance, and then within a month, I believe, he's dead. So it's great. I mean, I think it was like an awesome, like maybe he wasn't in the peak of his career in some ways, but the fact that his like last stage performance was like such a high note is great, and he's still loving what he's doing. You can tell he's like pouring his heart into that song, it's just awesome. And like I was looking at watching more of that. We don't get too much of like the fat Elvis in the movie, but I was watching the concert, and I was in my head, I was thinking, like, I knew nothing about Elvis, so I'm thinking, okay, when would he die? I guess I would have guessed maybe in his 50s, mid 50s. And how big was he? I don't know. He was probably like 300 pounds. When you look at the actual footage of the concert, he's like, especially by today's standards, he's not that big at all. In the limbs, he has like no fat. It gathered a little bit in the stomach, but his back arches. So with his stomach, it's like not pronounced. It's not like I'd see him in the street and, describing to the cops or something. Oh, I just saw a fat dude run down. Not really at all. He got a lot of it in the face. And that's how they did it in the movie too. And by the way, aside, I'm rambling, but the way that they did that actor's face for the final climactic little end of him playing Unchained Melody with the red eyes, and he's sweating and pouring everything into the song, awesome. Like he looked great. I loved him in this. So, but yeah, where was I going? He's not even that big. Is that all I had? Is that my only point? He wasn't that fat? I guess so. You hear the phrase fat Elvis or see the ice cream flavor fat Elvis and think he's huge, but I just saw like, okay, that's a great performance. He goes out with such a bang. Like you hear another like musician I liked a lot, Amy Winehouse, and I like couldn't help but compare it in my head. Her last performance, which you can pull up on YouTube, is like, I think like basically a broken woman who can barely like get the words out, and it's just like falling apart. It's like super tragic. Elvis's is like the opposite. It's tragic because he's dead in a month, but at the same time, it's like so satisfying because it's like such a bang. He's like doing what he loves and he's killing it, and it's like it's awesome. And yeah, I mean that's another reason I was like the end montage was so great, because there's footage of him saying too like how I've lived a full life basically, like I've had such a great time of things and I wouldn't trade it for anything, or whatever he says. It's really, really good. It's like a feel good movie at the end, and to have done that with what was definitely a tragic story throughout the movie, it was great. I think that's one of the things that makes it such a great movie, because like, it's a tragic end for Elvis, but he was still a king to the end. So that was great. What else do I really know? I don't know. I brought up all this Elvis merch because I was gonna like work it into the video. I don't really know how, but I'll just show off the crap I've got. since I saw the movie. I grabbed a few of these at an estate sale. I got his records. He's really good. But why am I I guess you can take this as like a sign of how contagious Elvis is after this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll go to this movie and you'll want the crap, the merch. It's really cool. I've got this book by his wife I picked up. She's got like an autobiography she wrote, Priscilla, and that's so far it's really interesting. I like that a lot. I got this poster of his return to live performing. That's in the movie, of course. It's a big moment in the movie. Right around Christmas time, this concert, it was the first time he had performed live in like almost a decade. And then what else? And then this, I guess it's show and tell. This is the show and tell segment of the video. Is this picture I did of Elvis. This was just like a cheap poster of him. It's in a frame, you can barely see it. But then what I did when I was, I think like 12 or something, I found this at a rummage sale, I think, and then I put like whiteout on his eyes, kind of poorly. But because I thought he looked like such a devil, like such a, just like eating up the world in this video, or in this photo. So then I went ahead and added these streaks to make him look kind of evil, but somehow it just like still fits. And I've thrown a lot away in my day. I have like a lot of artifacts from my childhood and stuff has been thrown away. But this I always like, I've never been able to. I'll be like 90 years old and I'll still have this just hanging around the house. So yeah, I don't know why I'm showing you that, but there you go. You're going to see this movie if you haven't already. And you'll go from like like 0 or negative like I did. Even if you go into there like that, you'll come out like liking Elvis. My parents, my mom was an Elvis fan, my dad not so much. Now we're all Elvis fans. I mean, I'm a nerd, so I'm into it more than like everyone I've gone to see it with. But yeah, it's great. It's worth the watch. It's worth price of admission. It's worth the 3 hours. It's like super fun. So you should, if you haven't yet, you should definitely treat yourself to seeing it. I give it a 10 out of 10. You saw the other review probably. I'm just generally positive, so I don't know how far a 10 out of 10 really goes for most people's scales, but I loved it a lot. And right when I get over Tom Hanks again, I'll be able to watch it again, and I look forward to that day. Hopefully it comes very soon. Definitely check it out. Listen to some of his music, because I was like surprised at how much I liked it. He's such a like overhyped, or like he has such a weird place in our like society, pop culture. I don't know how to say it. Like, I was thinking about it, how, you know how he's got his like crooning, you know, like blue, 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 Christmas, and he's got like the whatever, lilty, whatever. That's like, oh, distinct Elvis. You hear him on the radio, and like some people like hear it on the radio and they just like roll their eyes like, oh my God, that's like the most Elvis has ever been, you know? Well, the thing is, I was thinking about it, and it's like, he's got his distinct thing. So it's sort of like, and I was thinking of this especially since I saw his last concert where he did a cover of My Way by Sinatra. I was like, oh, you know what? It's funny because him and Sinatra are pretty close in that when you hear Frank Sinatra, he can sing like the first lyric of a song, even if you've never heard it, you're like, oh, Sinatra. And he does like he does like these cool, crazy, like interesting things with his voice. It's like the same thing with Elvis. The reason why I think, my theory is, at least for me, who was 24 at the time of filming, the reason I think before this movie, I thought Elvis was kind of like a goofball, is that he's got like impersonators, Johnny Bravo, all the like the Vegas stuff, and how there's like the conventions where people dress like him. I think that's all kind of summed up to make him seem like this like really weird, goofy anomaly. But if you like take that away and you consider like, oh, it was just like a normal dude who came out with a sound that was brand new. Like, it was so brand new and it was so different, and it was like, oh, like all that. His like, even if you think it's goofy, it's like his brand of goof, and I like people like have copied it a bunch and stuff obviously since then, but it was new, obviously. That's why he's like the big deal that he is. So yeah, I don't know, I just have like a way bigger respect for him than I thought I would, for sure. And like, it actually sounds pretty good, even though the stuff that was filmed at the start of his career. I mean, like, it's got that rockabilly whatever, which is like, trust me, not typically my genre, but it's like fun to listen to. It's easy listening for sure. Favorite song right now though definitely has to be the Unchained Melody. In fact, like, you should look up Elvis Unchained Melody, and it'll give him performing it live on YouTube. It's like a 4-minute clip or something. I've watched it several times, and it's just so like magnetic and electrifying, and like the way he's just like sweat is literally dripping from him, and he's just like giving it his all and grinning and like hamming it up, and he's get like he looks like a king, literally like on a throne. It's really awesome. And so yeah, this is coming from a 2-day-old Elvis fan. I don't know if that was helpful at all, but it was fun to make the video, fun to rant a little bit. I appreciate you watching. Go see it yourself if you haven't. Seriously, it's awesome. And that's pretty much all I got. Thanks.